Hey everybody, it's Tim Sackett, and we're back with another episode of SmashUps, the great video podcast brought to you by the folks over at Fistful of Talent and our sponsor, SmashFly, smashfly.com. Check them out if you're looking for some great talent acquisition CRM technology. We love them, and we also love our first guest that's coming on today, Maren Hogan, straight out of Omaha, the CEO of Red Branch Media. Maren, tell us a little bit about what Red Branch is, what you guys do.
Red Branch Media is kind of hard to define, but the short, long answer is we are a full-service marketing and advertising agency focused exclusively on HR and recruiting technology and services with a dash of employer branding and recruitment marketing campaigns thrown in.
So basically, what I take a look at Red Branch is I will take a look at all these HR tech companies and I kind of review them, and usually they come over and they're like, they have a good product, they have really good technology, but they just, like, they couldn't sell it if somebody, if it was water in the middle of the desert kind of thing. They have no idea. Yeah. And so then I go, you know Maren Hogan? Mm-hmm. You need to call her. And they're like, who? What?
I know,
where?
You've been a tremendous source of, like, referrals and word of mouth. So I want to thank you publicly for all of your support of Red Branch and Maren Hogan and our whole crew.
We can pat each other on the back all we want, but you guys do great work. And I think you give great value. I mean, that's one of the things I like, because there's some companies out there, right, in this marketplace that they do good work, but they charge an arm and a leg. And a lot of startups, a lot of companies are just, bootstrapping it to try to make it, can't do it, which I think you understand that because you were part of that and you're an agency that's growing and trying to make it. So I love that side of it. So I brought you in because of that expertise and that knowledge. Especially within the TA space. And so when we talk about talent acquisition, recruitment marketing, all that good stuff, that's, I think a lot of normal TA leaders really struggle with that. So if you were, a TA leader right now trying to attract talent to your organization, what are they missing? From your marketing perspective, what are most TA leaders missing within the organization?
Well, I don't know if I can distill it down to one thing, but I do think I can give you a couple of avenues. So the first is you're not today, the way the world works today, we provide a lot of services, right? There's not a whole lot of, it's not factory widgets on a factory floor. That still happens. Mm-hmm. But today we're selling the job and the team and the manager. And so I think so often we get caught up in employer brand. We forget about what is the brand of the job? Like, how does this fulfill the needs of the person to whom we're marketing? And I think recruitment marketing folks and employer branding folks like myself, we see that a lot differently than maybe a traditional, maybe talent management with less of a TA focus might see it, because it's like, we understand why they want the job, right? They want a paycheck, they want benefits, they want some place to go from 8 to 5 every day, whatever. But we're slower, I think, to realize, well, what are you giving them? Because it's more of an equitable balance than it ever used to be. So that's one thing. The second thing is, I think that for a lot of people, it's really hard to let go of power. And I know that I'm not hiring, I don't have 4.5, billion resumes, or I don't have any of that stuff going on. I'm a small business hiring for specific needs in a specific niche. But I will tell you that some of the basics are the same, which are you're hiring the good and missing out on the best. Yeah. And I don't mean the best when it comes to skills or assessing skills or, hey, they passed this whatever thing that somebody created for me for thousands of dollars. I mean, like, who has the best work ethic? Who has the best attitude? Who's going to make the biggest bottom line impact? Do you got somebody who can, program the crap out of something and is just a terrible person? They're going to come in and totally topsy-turvy your workplace. Mm-hmm. But if you have somebody who maybe doesn't have the skills but the capacity to learn, who's happy to be there, who's excited about it, they're going to make your workplace a better, more energetic place to be. And I think we're missing that too. And it's very easy to do that with all the assessments and fancy tools and stuff that's happening today. So those are maybe 2, 3, I don't know how many things. Those are the things.
So take it one step further. You, right, with your marketing background, not trained corporate traditional talent acquisition, get thrown into a job tomorrow. You're in a 100,000 person company, so big job. You're running TA. What are the first 3 things you're going to do to turn that around?
So what's interesting is I'm actually doing, I'm going to a social recruiting strategies conference. Sorry to do like a weird plug on your thing, but whatever. I apologize. But I'm going there, and what I'm talking about is an editorial calendar and how to build one. And so before we can take people through an editorial calendar, we take them through a marketing funnel. And as we were going through a traditional marketing funnel, we turned it into a candidate marketing funnel. So there's like awareness, consideration, decision. So if you transfer that to the candidate, I think you realize one of the things that I already mentioned, which is transferring from an employer brand to a job role branding focus. But secondly, what do people want to know? Are people really building candidate personas? I've talked to a lot of companies and a lot of, in the past few months, in the past few years, that just aren't.
Yeah.
They're not. They're not thinking, where is this person? What are they listening to? What are they reading? What's going on in their lives? So that's the first thing I would turn around is the channels.
Do you think some of that is because, as a TA leader, right, we come in and we're so overwhelmed by just the whole brand thing, right? We got to establish an employment brand. And so it's so big and it's this big, hairy, giant thing we're trying to get our arms around that we forget that we have to bring that down to all those levels of the candidate. And it becomes even a bigger job.
I think we forget that. And one of the things that we do, because we work with Fortune 500s and enterprise, and then we also work with these small companies that are startups, and they're like, hey, I work in my basement, which I totally get, worked in my basement too.
Yep.
But one of the things that we see when we come in there is like reduce, reuse, recycle. And if you grew up as a kid in the whatevers, you might remember that statement, especially if you lived in California. But it makes sense when it comes to content and employer brand too. If you don't know what's working in your employer brand, if you don't know what people are saying about you and how they feel about you, you find out first. You don't go off half-cocked. Here's, $5 million. Can you develop our EVP? That's stupid. I can tell you that's one thing I wouldn't do.
But a lot of companies do that.
I know a lot of companies do that. I would like them to call me anytime. But
you'll take their $5 million.
No, I wouldn't. I would take 1 million, spend the 4 million smart, right? That's what I would do because I'm not an idiot. But I think that a lot of people forget this is our reputation. You can change your reputation over the course of time, but you need to use what you have, find your differentiators, get that out on the right channel. So that was my first point, which is like, hey, maybe they're not on Career Builder or Indeed or whatever. Sorry again with company names.
LinkedIn, whatever. Yeah.
Exactly. Like the point is, maybe you can reach them on Spotify, and maybe you can reach them with a billboard. Like you're not going to know unless you get somebody with marketing expertise to say, this is who you want, this is what they want, this is where they are, and this is how to hook them. And people just aren't doing that. They're so caught up in the EVP, which nobody reads. Sorry, other EVP people. But nobody reads except for when they get down into the nitty-gritty of the employer brand, which I think it's not BS. It should drive the brand, but it's not the end-all be-all.
Okay. So what else? There was 3 things. That was the first.
Oh, crap. That was the first? 3 things that I would do. Okay, so first thing is I would assess my channels.
Yes.
And find out which of my channels were actually giving me people that I hired.
Yes.
Second, I would go through and reduce, reuse, recycle in terms of my content and brand that I had. Mm-hmm. If I had an employer video, I would use it. If I had blog posts from the past, I would use them, et cetera, et cetera. The third thing that I would do is I would find out who is committed, and I would go through a review process. So at Red Branch, we have people that work here, and the clients pay our bills. And so I say every week, or the social media manager says, hey, these people pay your bills, promote their stuff, like their stuff, interact with them on social media, on professional social media. Facebook is their own. I feel like that should be true if you're doing corporate employer branding.
Yeah.
Hiring managers frequently, and you know this, they want us to bring them the right people. They want us to bring them people who will stick around. What are they doing? Are they asking their current employees to review them on Glassdoor? Are they asking people to do a review campaign on Facebook? These things are starting to matter to a lot of job seekers, especially the millennials, which, as we've all heard, are going to take over and forever, and we're all going to be working for them, whatever. But there is a grain of truth in that, which is that, hey, they care about what Yelp says and Glassdoor says and Facebook reviews says and Google reviews says. So if we're not building a consistent campaign to say, hey, we're an employer of choice and this is what matters to us, employer of choice is BS, but you know what I'm saying. This is what matters to us. If you align with this, come apply, and having their current employees, people who aren't already ticked off, people who haven't left the corporation, if they're not reviewing those things, I would get campaigns started, like a monthly consistent, hey, are you asking your team to review us? Are you asking your team to talk about our benefits?
Cool. So you guys have already seen why I love Maren, because she tells exactly like it is. And that's why I recommend her, because I know she's going to shoot it straight to people. If you're just joining us, obviously, well, you probably wouldn't because it's a video podcast, but it's SmashUps, smashfly.com. Thanks for SmashFly for allowing us to do this. And check them out, Transform Recruitment Marketing Conference 2017. It was one of the top recruiting market conferences that I went to in all of 2016. Really good stuff. So put that on your list for 2017. So Maren, I'm going to take a left turn. You had brought up millennials. People love talking about millennials. I actually hate it. I think it's stupid. But you run this firm that's just chock full of millennials and your husband. Like, you hired all these millennials and your husband, who's not a millennial. And we beat them up constantly. They get beat up in the media constantly. But they're very open. They're social. All of the stuff that happens. What advice do you give to leaders when it comes to getting the most out of a millennial-based team?
I would say expect the most. Millennials their DNA is not different. They don't look any different, save a few inches and pounds here and there. Like my millennials are amazing. Yeah. And it's because I expect them to be amazing. I don't want to talk to their parents, and they know it. I don't want to be their mom, and they know it. I expect them to be full-grown adults from the moment they walk in the door, even as interns, and to say, like, okay, here's what I expect from you. Bring it back to me at noon. Let's see how far you've gotten. And then I'll mentor them through that. But mentor and babysitter are not synonymous, and everyone here knows that. It's a huge culture of transparency, accountability, no clicks, no drama, no BS. Like, we're just going to work together and support each other. And if I find you gossiping, and if I find you lying down on the job, then it's not going to be a pretty picture for you. And I feel like, and I don't mean that like, oh, I'm going to smack you around. I'm not like the Omaha Godfather or anything. But my point is, that's a new series. So I'm going to put it on your.
I would love to see that on TLC.
Yeah, expect the best. Expect the best from them, because they can deliver it. They're highly educated. They have a tremendous work ethic that is not being exploited by corporate America, thank God, yet. And so what small business can do, and a real advantage that we have right now, SMBs, is we can go out, find these people, give them the benefits that matter to them, give a flying burrito about 401ks, but they care about, you're going to match our IRA, or you're going to give us, health savings accounts that we can use on our own, or whatever.
Yeah. Or you're not going to micromanage me if I don't show up at 8 a.m. exactly, blah, blah, blah. If I'm getting my work done, right?
Or set your own schedule, or you don't have to wear chinos. You can wear jeans or pajama pants. I don't care. Just deliver me to work.
I don't think they call them chinos, Maren.
I think, I read, you don't read women's magazines, but there's a distinct difference between chinos and khakis and flat front. I'll send you the spreadsheet.
All right. Last question before we get you out of here. You have 3 sons. I have 3 sons. Your 3 sons are obviously younger than mine because you're younger than me, but we are kind of in the same generation. I'm just on the one side, you're on the other. When we think about our own sons entering the workforce, do you foresee that we're going to have to recruit them differently than how we're recruiting people right now?
Ooh, this is a rough one. So
how do you attract your own son to come work for you, right? Which is, for me, it's
all,
like,
my
no,
own son did work
I pay
for
your
me.
bills, so you are going to work here. Mine did too.
Yeah, exactly. That's basically what I tried to do. It did not work. He was like, I'd rather work for literally anyone else. Like, I would rather collect trash on the side of the highway. So for me, I know the advice I would give my son, because he'll never watch this. So I can tell you the story. The other day I came upon our family computer and I saw that he had filled out an application, and in like prior references, he had put like John. Yeah. Just John. Not like John Smith or John Smith,
John
assistant manager at gas station, whatever. It was just like John. And I was like, wait, do I say something? Does that make me a helicopter parent if I say something? So there's so much going on there, but I know from my vantage point, and, I do feel like at least for the next couple of years, you and I, our age group, our generation, are going to be sort of the managers, maybe the hirers. Pretty soon, though, the next generation is going to overtake. But until they do, I will tell you that if somebody put in an application and listed a prior reference as John, I would say, thanks though. Like, I just wouldn't even respond.
Yeah.
Like, and I know
Thank you.
candidate experience is important, but I straight up would not respond, because that shows to me, and this is what I would tell my son and did tell my son, just a lack of research on your own part, just a lack of caring, thinking that this application isn't important. I don't care if you're applying to a pizza store or my company or the gas station down the street or a dance hall. You put your heart into it. And so that's the advice I give them. In terms of hiring people like them, I guess it would be understanding that that's something and giving them that feedback and just saying, hey, I get it. I know that the world is changing and you're in high demand. I would just tell you, I'm not going to hire you based on X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, I'm a little bit fearful on the technology side, because it seems like all of our kids are so tech savvy and they just want to do everything on their phone, and they want to be able to, to book their entire vacation and do everything. And so this whole automation of recruitment scares me a little. In fact, of when it comes time to actually do that face to face or have that conversation, do they have the skill sets to be able to do that, right? Like, I'm fearful that my kids could actually hold that conversation. But I don't know if all parents are that way about their own kids. But I'm wondering, in terms of how you actually go out and recruit them, if that's going to cause us any differences.
Answer to number one is yes, all parents are fearful about that with their own kids. Answer number two is, I think it's up to us as parents to have more adult conversations. So I think our generation, and this is probably outside the scope of this podcast, our generation has protected them. This next upcoming generation, I would say we grew up with that kid that got kidnapped and, like a bunch of like really overprotective stuff going on. And so I think some of that seeped into our generation. So we are a little, you don't need to be exposed to that NC-17.
But don't you think the millennials, they had that same criticism from when we talk about the millennials, we kind of act like their parents did the same thing to them. And I don't necessarily think we're doing the same things. I mean, I look at it and say my kids grew up during the recession, and they had their friends, their best friends saw their parents lose their jobs and do some stuff like that. And they had some real world experiences hit them in the face that I don't think necessarily the millennials did. And we're to a point now where the millennials are almost out of that generation of being first hire. Now it's your oldest son, my oldest son are being into that world. And so I'm wondering if that really, I'm wondering what all these thought leaders like you and I and people that write all this crap are going to say about the next generation, our own kids coming up versus the millennials,
Yeah, I would just say it would go back to kind of what I said about the millennials that I have.
Yeah.
Right? Like versus our kids' generation. So the average age at Red Branch is like, 25, maybe 23. But my kid is 17. So there's a lot of the people that I hire are closer in age to my son than they are to me. But they're two different generations distinctly. Sure. And I would say that once a boss or a coach or a teacher or a professor in the university system lets them know, hey, this isn't okay. Like, I have a lot of people here who are amazing today, solid, brilliant performers who do work on clients that, I could have only dreamed of when I got into this business. Started out with a mindset that was like, whoop, and now we've got it straight, because it was like, no, this is what you're going to do, and this is what I expect from you. And the second somebody says that to my son or your son, and they lose out on an opportunity because of it, or they rise to the occasion, or however their response is, they're going to get it. And they're going to be like, oh, it wasn't just my lame dad and my dumb mom talking about it. It was like, this is real.
Well, hey, everybody, that's it for SmashUps. Make sure you check out Maren and read her stuff. She's one of the best writers out there in terms when it comes to management, leadership, HR, TAs type stuff, in terms of the content that she produces. Maren, tell everybody how they get hold of you. How they find you?
You can find me anywhere. My name is Maren Hogan, and if you type that in anywhere, you're going to be able to find me on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, but not Snapchat, which I loathe.
Because she knows she can own the SEO. She's smart that way. All right, cool, everybody. We'll check you out next time on SmashUps. Thanks a lot. We'll see you soon.